Hello, my friend, and welcome back to yet another video where we're exploring the wonderful world of CSS. Just in case you're new here, my name is Kevin, and here at my channel, we help people fall in love with CSS. And if I can't get you to fall in love with it, I'm hoping to at least help you be a little bit less frustrated by it. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at one of my favorite new features, which is anchor positioning. But we're not going to be looking at creating tooltips with it, because that's sort of like our menus that pop up from like a specific place. Those are two of the use cases that you see the most often with it, and they're probably like very good use cases, or not probably, they are very good use cases for it. But there's a few other things that you can do that are really, really interesting. And the first one that I want to look at is tethering an item to a sibling. And this might not always seem like, why would you want to do that, right? Because we've never been able to do that before. You don't think of why it would be useful. But let's look here where I have these cards. And some of these cards have these tags on them. And the structure of this is I have my image here, and then I have the content. And with the content over here, I have this badge. And I said sibling. This isn't even a sibling. This is the sibling of the parent. So is that a cousin? No. Uncle? I don't know. Uncle, aunt, whatever it is. I want to tether this badge to the image. And the reason I want to do that is my designer has come back to me and they've said, I like the layout. This is what I told you to do, but we're actually going to move the badges from here to the bottom right corner of the images. And that poses a problem normally in CSS, because if we look here where I have my badge, I use position absolute. Let me get this out of the way a little bit. I have this position absolute, and I just did a top and a right of 6 pixels, and that's perfect. And over on my product, I have a position of relative. So this absolute is relative, or the product itself is the containing block. So the offset here is from the parent, which is perfect, except if I want to go down to here, because, well, how do I do that? I go, okay, well, my top now, I guess, is going to be 150 pixels. Oh, that's not quite right. 160 pixels. Oh, almost 154 pixels. Okay, we got it there. And then the height of the image changes because the designer changes that. And then you go, oh no, I have to change this again. Now, I could definitely set this up with some custom properties because I'm actually putting a fixed height for my images here. So, that is sometimes a possibility, but you don't really want to have to do that. Ideally, this number would just be 6 pixels off the bottom of the image. So I could come at the top here and change the markup. I could create another element at the top, image container, and I could move the badge into there. But then from a content perspective, maybe that, the markup perspective, maybe that doesn't make the most sense. Maybe I don't want to have to bother changing this. Well, now I don't have to bother changing that. What I can do is, let's come on the image itself, and I want to make this the anchor. So to be able to do that, we can come here and we call this anchor name, we give it a name. And just like a custom property, it has to start with a double hyphen. I think image makes sense. Or we could be more specific. We could say product image, just in case you have other images that have to be anchors somewhere else. So the anchor name is product image. And then I can come onto my badge and I can say that this position should be anchored to there. So to be able to do that, then what we do is a position anchor. And we say that this should be anchored to the image. You don't necessarily have to do this. And in the next example, we'll see other ways that you can actually anchor to different stuff. But to me, if we're anchoring to one element, it makes the most sense to be explicit and say, okay, this is what we're actually anchoring to, at least in my own mind with the way I'm writing these. Now, when I first do that, nothing changes. And if I come in here and I go, okay, I want my top should still be 6 pixels. But then my right, or no, it shouldn't be a top. It should actually be a bottom, sorry. Bottom should now be 6 pixels. And it was the right that wasn't changing, right? So the right stays at 6 pixels. That didn't quite work yet. When we're using a position anchor, if we do the bottom and the right like this, how we normally would have, what happens is we have to be explicit that we're not anchoring this to the containing block, we're anchoring to the anchor. To be able to do that, we come in here and we say anchor. And we have this new anchor function. So both of these should be going to our anchor. And then you say where you want it to get anchored to. So my bottom of my badge should be anchored to the bottom of my image. So I can just write bottom here. And you can see it's actually moved down to the bottom. And my right side should be anchored to the right. and it moves on over to the right. I do have some margin on here, so let's take that off, and now it's stuck on the exact bottom right. Now I could come in with margins to help fix this a little bit, but there's a better solution than having to add margins. I guess margins would actually be completely fine, but I want to show you a cooler way of doing this anyway. What's interesting here is actually I'm going to come and turn off the position relative. Not yet. We're going to look at how we can actually turn off that relative. Sometimes you might have to do that. I'll talk more about that in a second. But I could do the bottom could actually be anchored to the top. These are all going to vanish off because I have an overflow hidden. Let's just turn off the overflow here. So you can actually see like the bottom of it is now stuck to the top of my image, and this type of thing could be useful as well. But in this case, just because of my image with the border radius, I want to keep the overflow clip on. And what we're going to do is I have my bottom, and this should go back to bottom. And as I said, you might want it like 6 pixels or 8 pixels off the side. This gets resolved by the browser as a computed value. So the browser figures what this out is in pixels all by itself. So you can actually just do a calc here. And calc, bottom, I guess it does. I don't know if it actually gets resolved in pixels. I think it does. Anyway, and so I'm going to say bottom, but I want it up. So I'm going to say minus 8 pixels, plus 8 pixels. And we've moved it up by 8. And then we can do the same thing here with a calc. And then on that one, once again, we can do a plus 8 pixels. And now we've sort of scooted it on over a little bit. And that works really well. Now there is a gotcha here that I do want to mention, which is that sometimes you won't have a position relative on another element that's further out, like to create a containing block, how you normally would be using position relative. In the way that my markup is constructed right now, I was able to make that switch and everything worked fine. So if that was the case, I would leave it as is. If the product was what was creating the anchor name, the position relative here would actually break things. I believe that's the correct thing. And there's actually a full list of potential side effects and weird things that can get in the way when you're using anchor positioning. And I'm going to link to an article by James Stuckey from Oddbird that goes over all of them. Fantastic article. Every time I run into a problem with anchor positioning, it saves my life. So check out that article. Bookmark it if you're going to be using anchor positioning at all. So let's say I take off the position relative here because in this fictional world, in this case, it's causing problems. And if I turn it off, I have a problem. You can see they've all vanished, or they haven't all vanished. There is one left that's under my head that's over here. And the reason it's there is they're actually all there. They've just all stacked on top of each other in the bottom right of all of the different ones I have. And the reason for that is it's going, all of my images have the same anchor name. And if they all have the same anchor name, CSS, last thing wins. They're all going, oh, well, if I'm going to an anchor name, this is the last of that anchor name. That must be the one that wins. And so we're all getting anchored to the exact same image that's over here, which obviously is not what we want. So there is a solution to this, which is another new feature called position scope. Sometimes the position scope will be on the element where your anchor name is. Other times it's going to be like this, where I don't want to scope it to the image because I need this element that's not directly related to my image to still be able to see it. So I want to scope that anchor image or the image product image to each one of these elements. So to be able to do that, I just say the position scope is my product. Product, you got to spell things right, image. And you can see I'm getting some syntax highlighting. This is relatively new, and maybe I spelt it wrong. I didn't. It's not position scope, Kevin. It's anchor scope, anchor name, anchor scope. And now you can see it's fixed the problem. So we've anchored, we've created a scope of this product image name, which so now what that means is this has a product image anchor name, but that anchor name will not leave the scope of this. So it doesn't escape outside of that element that it's inside of anymore. So anything that's in here, or yeah, anything that's in this product here will be seeing the scope or be seeing that anchor name, but only related to what's inside of here and not seeing ones that have the same name that exist elsewhere. And this really saves our life on a lot of things, because imagine you had to have a unique anchor scope name for everything. That would be really, really annoying. So by being able to scope the name to another element, which can be the element itself or a further out element, then you can do cool stuff like this. And now for the other example that I want to talk about, which is tethering to multiple different elements, which probably even more niche, but potentially super useful. And so the example I want to give for this is like a chat where we want to create tethers, or like a line that's literally tethering things together. So I have the HTML here, where this entire thing is our thread. In there, we have our comment, which is this one here, and then this is a list item, and in there, there's a sub-list of our replies, and each one of these is a class of reply. Relatively straightforward. And so jumping over to the CSS, I'm not going to worry too much about the styling that we already have. I just want to look at exactly what we want to do. And the very first thing I would do is I want a line for each one of the replies, right? I want to go like this reply should have a line going to here. This reply should have a line going there. So I know that every reply is going to have one. And the easiest way, in my opinion, to do this is with a pseudo element. We're going to say content will be nothing. And let's give it, I'm going to give it a width of, this is going to be kind of magic numbery. Ideally, I'd use a calc. I'd know the space here and just do a calc of like divide that by 2. And then we'd be fine. We're going to give it a height for now of 100%. That might change. I don't know if that's even going to work. Let's just say 100 pixels for now. We'll try 100%. And if we don't see it, then we'll, 100% should work, because I'm going to use positioning. I don't even know if I need a height. Anyway, let's give it a background of red so we can see it. And those won't actually show up yet, because a pseudo element needs the content, and then it needs something to tell it how to render. So that could either be a position or a display type. So for now, let's throw a display of block on there just so they actually show up. Sadly, they still haven't shown up. Content display width, height, background red, they should be showing up. So I'm actually going to look at where they are. And because I'm in a demo, I'm way too zoomed in, but let's go. There's a reply. The reply should have an after, which it does. And it's saying my height is 100%. It's a display block. Kevin, you should know better. Let's just say 1 rem for now. There we go. There it is. But of course, I don't want it to be display block. I want it to be position absolute. So there it is. Now my height 100% would work. There we go. So it's 100% of the viewport. There's nothing with position relative anywhere right now. So if I do a top of 0 and a left of 0, it's top of the viewport and the left of the viewport, and it just stretches the whole size. Clearly not what I want right now. So how do I get it to go from the top of a comment to the side here? Well, it means the comment itself, because this is my dot comment. So let's give that a name, an anchor name. Comment can have anchor. I always do that because anchor names have to start with double hyphen. Every time I go to write anchor name, I always put the 2 hyphens. So this can be our comment. And my reply can have an anchor name of reply. We're going to need that one as well. And now I need to get to the anchor to the top of this. But previously we had position absolute. Let's just bring all the positioning properties together. We had a position of absolute, and I said then we could do a position anchor and we'd say the name. But I don't want it to be comment. I only want one of them to be comment, and I don't want it to be reply. So what do we do? If you have multiple ones, or even if you only have one, you could take this approach as well. When you do the anchor here, and so I do know I want the top of the red bar at the bottom of the comment. So I'm going to write bottom, but now I just have to tell it the bottom of what. So with a space, I can put bottom of the comment. And oh, like magic, it's lined up perfectly with the bottom of my comment. Then the left, I guess we do the same thing. Anchor to the left of comment. Cool. Okay, that looks pretty good. But now the bottom of it, I want the bottom of it to be anchored to the middle, right? I don't want to go to the bottom or the top. I want to go right in the middle, or the center, perhaps. So let's try that. Let's say the bottom should go to anchor center, but we don't want it to be the center of the comment. Now we want it to be center of the reply. So we say reply here. And that's actually working. My problem now is my height is at 100%, so I can take that off. And now the bottom is at the center of the reply. Now, except these are all creating one, and well, we wouldn't really see it anyway. Let's add, I don't know, we could do something here to change the size, but everything is okay with it, but they are all overlapping each other. They're all getting down to this point, and I don't want them to all go down that far. I want each one to stop at a different point. And just to show that they are all overlapping, let's go and take just a quick look in our dev tools right now. So this is the third reply, and the after is taking up that full height. If I go inside the second reply, same thing. And if I go inside the first reply here, the same thing. They're stretching, and they're all going from the bottom of this one to the center of this. Isn't center so cool? It makes it so easy. I don't want that to happen. I want it to go from the bottom of this to the one that it lives inside of. And so to be able to do that, we have to return to what we talked about in the previous one, where we want to use scope. And this one, it's probably a more realistic example of using anchor scope, because I wouldn't want this to have a position relative on it, because then we wouldn't be escaping and being able to see the comment over here, right? Position relative means stay within this element. It becomes the containing block, and it won't go out. I don't want to do that. I want to allow it to escape out to get to the comment, but I don't want to allow it to escape out of this for the scope of this name. If the pseudo element is inside of a reply, then I want it to only see the reply that it's living inside of. So this is one of those instances where the anchor name and the anchor scope are both going to be on the same element. And this really depends on what you're connecting to where and the relationship between things. Sometimes it will be like this, and other times different elements will be what are creating the scope, like we saw in our last example. Now, if I hit reply, we don't really see a change, but there has been a change. And to see that change, instead of having a background of red, which is a bit of a weird thing to have on here anyway, I'm going to keep it being a solid line, but I'm going to take the background off completely, actually, and we're going to put a border here instead. I'm going to say 1 pixel, solid, and we'll just say white, just so it stands out enough. And look at that, we can see that there's 3 elements now, because we can see the borders coming between them. If I take this anchor scope off, it's going to look like there's 1 element, because they're all the same size now. Whereas, let's make this a bit bigger just for demo land, 3 pixels solid white. I did something else while we were there. 3 pixels should work. Yeah, now we can see clearly there's 3 different elements. And this actually works perfectly for what we want. I just don't want the border on all sides. So then I can say border right color is transparent, and the border top color is also transparent. And we get something that looks like that. Not fantastic yet, but we're getting closer. We can then do a border radius. We're just going to use the shorthand for this. We're going to say border radius is going to be a 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then we can say, I don't know, 12 pixels. And now all of a sudden it starts looking a little bit more like those thread type things we'd find. Now we just want to sort of move it over a little bit because the spacing kind of looks weird. But here, once again, we can do some calcs on these because I want to move it over here, right? I don't want it to be here. I want to move it over to that point. So let's do that. That would be the left position. We can say a calc. And that would maybe be 0.5 plus 0.5 rem. So we're moving it over. Maybe we could do a full rem plus 1 rem. So it's moved over. Yeah, I think I must have had 2 rem of padding there or margin. So we're right in the middle. And then I don't want to have to magic number the right side of it. Like right now I'm giving it a width, but then the width would change. I don't want to have to do that. So we can take the width of this whole element off, change the border to 1 pixel because that's going to look a little better. And then that's the top, the left, the bottom. The right side should be my anchor of the left side of my reply. And just like that, we've created some threads. I'd probably change the color here to make it a little bit more subtle, make it a nice little visual clue. And yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. And there is one more thing that I think is pretty cool as well, which you can see here, where I've created this using pseudo element, one single pseudo element that's anchored to the different elements, and we can animate between where it is, which is really, really awesome. And it didn't work the way I thought it would work, but it turns out there is actually a very simple way of pulling this off. If you want to see how I did this, well, I've already covered this in a previous video that you can watch right here. And with that, I would like to thank my enabler of awesome, Johnny, as well as all my other patrons and channel members for their continued support. And of course, until next time, don't forget to make your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome.